Shanti Shanti. Om Stavakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Stavakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishna Te Namah Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityormamritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God Incarnate, who came to establish universal religion. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. We have been studying Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Today's topic I have selected from the Gospel, importance of silence. The whole world is vibrating with tremendous noise everywhere in various ways. Traffic noise, noise of the animals, noise of the people, so on and so forth. Tremendous noise. The whole atmosphere has been vitiated by this impure noise. Noise is also considered one of the reasons for health problems. So, one has to know the value of silence. Spiritual practice can be undertaken effectively when you know the importance of silence. There is profound strength in observing silence. One who is silent, focusing the mind on the Divine Supreme, it is possible for him to remain contented and peaceful. Sri Ramakrishna said in the Gospel, in one of his talks, he said, "In my present state of mind, I can't bear such rudeness. When a thunderbolt strikes near a house, the heavy things inside the house are not much affected, but the window panes rattle. Nowadays I can't bear such roughness. A man living on the plane of sattva cannot bear noise and uproar. That's why Hridaya was sent away. It was the Divine Mother who sent him away. During the later part of his stay, Hridaya went to extremes. He became very rough and abusive. There are people who indulge in all kinds of gossip at the time of their daily devotions. As you know, one is not permitted to talk then. So, what do? They make all kinds of signs, keeping their lips closed. In order to say, bring this, bring that, they make sounds like who, who, like that. It reminds me a small incident. In my pre-monastic life, one priest came to our home to perform some ritual. After that, we all sat together for taking lunch. This priest said that he will not talk during taking lunch. Well, all the food was served. In the middle of eating, he wanted salt. But he cannot speak. So we were not so much aware of this requirement of salt. We were all happy with whatever we are eating. But this priest was very particular about salt. He wanted a little more salt. But how to communicate? Noonam anaya. Like they began to say. You're all struck from where the sound is coming. Then he is telling in Sanskrit. Noonam means salt, salt. Bring salt. Noonam anaya. Bring salt. So after the lunch is over, he was telling us, one should not speak during lunch time, but during eating time, but if it is very urgent, one can use Sanskrit words. People really cannot remain silent. Again, there are some who bargain for fish while telling their beads. As they count the rosary with a finger, they point out the fish indicating, that one please. They reserve all their business for that time. Again Sri Ramakrishna says, it's really thought-provoking how Sri Ramakrishna has given us very important direction for our spiritual practice. There are women who come to the Ganges for their bath, and instead of thinking of God, gossip about no end of things. What jewels did you offer at the time of your son's marriage? Has so and so returned from her father-in-law's house? So and so is seriously ill. So and so went to see the bride. We hope that they will offer a magnificent dowry and that there will be a great feast. Harish always nags at me, Sri Ramakrishna said. He can't stay away from me even an hour. My child, I couldn't come to see you all these days. I mean, this is not said by Sri Ramakrishna as such, but this is the statement which people talk. He was referring to how people talk. My child, I could not come to see you all these days. I was so busy with the betrothal of so and so's daughter. You see, they have come to bathe in the holy river and yet they indulge in all sorts of worldly talk. The master began to look intently at the younger Narain and went into samadhi. Did he see God himself in the pure-souled devotee? The devotees silently watched the figure of Sri Ramakrishna motionless in samadhi. A few minutes before, there had been so much laughter in the room. Now there was deep silence, as if no one were there. The master sat with folded hands as in his photograph. Sri Ramakrishna said, reasoning and discrimination vanish after the attainment of God and communion with Him in samadhi. How long does a man reason and discriminate? As long as he is conscious of the manifold, as long as he is aware of the universe, of embodied beings, of I and you. He becomes silent when he is truly aware of unity. This was the case with Trailinga Swami. Have you watched a feast given to the Brahmins? At first there is a great uproar, but the noise lessens as their stomachs become more and more filled with food. When the last course of yogurt and sweets are served, one hears only the sound of soup as they scoop up the yogurt in their hands. There is no other sound. Next is the stage of sleep samadhi. There is no more uproar. Many people talk of Brahmajnana, but their minds are always preoccupied with lower things: house, buildings, money, name, and sense pleasures. As long as you stand at the foot of the monument, so long do you see horses, carriages, Englishmen and Englishwomen. But when you climb to its top, you behold the sky and the ocean stretching to infinity. Then you do not enjoy buildings, carriages, horses and men. They look like ants. All such things as attachment to the world and enthusiasm for lust and gold disappear after the attainment of knowledge of Brahman. Then comes the cessation of all passions. When the log burns, it makes a crackling noise and one sees the flame. But when the burning is over and only ash remains, then no more noise is heard. Thirst disappears with the destruction of attachment. Finally comes peace. The nearer you come to God, the more you feel peace, 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 supreme peace. The nearer you come to the Ganges, the more you feel its coolness. You will feel completely soothed when you plunge into the river. But the universe and its created beings and the 24 cosmic principles all exist because God exists. Nothing remains if God is eliminated. The number increases if you put many zeros after the figure 1. But the zeros don't have any value if the 1 is not there. Like the Akasha, Brahman is without any modification. It has become manifold because of Shakti. Again, Brahman is like fire, which itself has no color. The fire appears white if you throw a white substance into it, red if you throw a red, black if you throw a black. The 3 gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas, belong to Shakti alone. Brahman itself is beyond the 3 gunas. What Brahman is can't be described. It is beyond words. That which remains after everything is eliminated by the Vedantic process of neti, not this, and which is of the nature of bliss, is Brahman. Suppose the husband of a young girl has come to his father-in-law's house and is seated in the drawing room with other young men of his age. The girl and her friends are looking at them through the window. Her friends do not know her husband, and ask her, pointing to one young man, "Is that your husband?" "No," she answers, smiling. They point to another young man and ask if he is her husband. Again she answers, "No." They repeat the question, referring to a third, and she gives the same answer. At last, they point to her husband and ask, "Is he the one?" She says neither yes nor no, but only smiles and keeps quiet. Her friends realize that he is her husband. One becomes silent on realizing the true nature of Brahman. Sri Ramakrishna said to Narendra, as long as a man argues about God, he has not realized him. You two were arguing. I didn't like it. How long does one hear noise and uproar in a house where a big feast is being given? So long as the guests are not seated for the meal. As soon as food is served and people begin to eat, 3/4 of the noise disappears. When the dessert is served there is still less noise. But when the guests eat the last course buttermilk, then one hears nothing but the sound soup. When the meal is over, the guests retire to sleep and all is quiet. The nearer you approach to God, the less you reason and argue. When you attain Him, then all sounds, all reasoning and disputing come to an end. Then you go into samadhi, sleep, into communion with God in silence. So silence has got profound meaning and profound role in our spiritual practice. Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, Maunam chaivasnu guhyanam. Of things secret I am silence. There was an advertisement in a newspaper. It said, an officer required in a company dealing with very small sensitive instruments. It was a prestigious post, therefore lots of people applied for the post. All the selected applicants arrived for the interview on the decided date. While waiting to be called for interview, some of the applicants were drinking tea or coffee, some were smoking, some were talking, and others were trying to impress the officers of the company. The hall was extremely noisy. Like that. The whole hall was vibrating with various kinds of noise. All of a sudden, an announcement not easily audible was made from one of the sensitive instruments. We would like to recruit a person who has a quiet nature and keen observation. The person who can hear this instruction may come in and take the recruitment letter. Nobody could hear that announcement in such a terrible, noisy atmosphere. But there was one young man who was sitting silently. He heard it, got up immediately and went in. He was appointed for that prestigious position. He went out of the room with the recruitment offer in his hand and spoke to other applicants. He said to them, "Why is such a chaos here? I am already appointed for the position." All the people who were engaged in terrible noise, they were all annoyed after hearing his statement. They accused him of bribing the recruiting group. How could he get that position? Then that man replied peacefully, "Before going in, I thought of you all. Then I saw that none of you could hear that instruction which said, Whoever can hear this voice can come in and collect their appointment letter. I was able to hear that, but none of you could do that because you were all engaged in busy talking, making busy noise. God, the Supreme Father of all, is also instructing us continuously in the same way. He is holding the winner's cup in his hand and waiting for us. But we are so wretchedly busy in this material world that we are not able to hear his indication or commands, and therefore we are not able to become the winners. The great Saint Confucius, he said, silence is a true friend that never betrays. Silence, true. But in silence, what do you do? In silence, you must focus your mind on the divine. Then only you will have the benefits of silence. The concept of silence is an ideal trigger for introspection and reflection. You can observe the scientists. They will be sitting in a corner, deeply thinking within. Because in deep silence, they find solutions. They discover many things. Derived from the word muni, an ascetic who practices silence, mauna, ideally symbolizes a state of oneness with the self. Mauna means silence. Mauna is a Sanskrit word. It has been described by Adi Shankara as one of the three essential attributes of a sincere spiritual seeker, along with balya or childlike state and panditya or wisdom. According to one of the great saints, Ramana Maharshi, silence is a state beyond speech and thought. It is living without the ego sense. That is silence. You must not have any kind of your importance. I am so and so. No. Keep your ego aside. Become zero. Then you will know the beauty of silence. Don't try to draw the attention. Don't expect recognition. Silent. The ancients set aside an entire month in winter for spiritual discipline, and the exercise would culminate in complete silence on the 15th day of the dark fortnight of Magha Mass. It is known as Mauni Amavasya. Mauni Amavasya. Meditation on this day is believed to be extremely meritorious, particularly if undertaken at the confluence of the three rivers at Prayag. To this day, seekers and sadhakas come from afar to Sangam, Triveni Sangam, to practice rigorous month-long austerities and ceremonies known as Kalpavas, which ends with the observance of Mauni Amavasya. Widely perceived as an auspicious day, Mauni Amavasya also has a symbiotic relationship with the Kumbh Mela at Allahabad. And this is reinforced in the annual Megha Mela of the Kalpavasis. Ancient yoga literature describes the three rivers in metaphorical terms as the Sushumna, Ida and Pingala nadis within the body, which have to be brought into the equipoise to enter the state of Mauna or Samadhi. The quest for oneness has attracted many a seeker on the path of contemplation through the practice of silence. The mind that enters itself goes on a long pilgrimage from which there is no return. Silence was the defining characteristic of both Saints Mahavira and Buddha's search for meaning. One observed silence for 12 years on his chosen path, and the other was exemplified as the silent sage Sakya Muni, the silent one of the Sakya tribe. Silence also marked Sri Aurobindo's sadhana, for he observed Mauna for nearly 17 years. He observed silence. And Mahatma Gandhi was a votary of the vow of silence, observing Mauna every Monday. This transforming voice of silence led Ramana Maharshi to hold Mauna as the best and highest form of Diksha. Initiation he would give through silence. Taimanwar, a great Tamil saint, followed the discipline of Mauna till it became his natural state of being, which led him to describe it as that state which spontaneously manifests after the annihilation of the ego. Mauni Amavasya is a day of spiritual sadhana, of getting into the habit of calming the restless mind. There are 7 steps toward golden silence, of how to let go of fears and anxieties and jealousies, of the need to overcome the fear of silence itself, which we all have, by beginning with just sitting and being quiet. Apart from its religious import, Mauni Amavasya is a call of the inner self, of the need for initiating an inner dialogue with oneself, of the need to start the spiritual journey. The vow of silence is one of the basic spiritual disciplines for the evolution of the self, starting with the mauna of speech, which through practice of silence will lead to the real mauna of mind. Vedantic seers from Shankara to Ramana have defined the state of freedom from the mind and mauna as a key to that spiritual dimension, which enables one to be witness to the mind. Tradition holds Mauni Amavasya to be an ideal time to control the vikshepa or distractions of the mind and focus attention within. Sri Ramakrishna was talking to disciples. Just then Narendra and Colonel Vishwanath Upadhyaya entered the room. Narendra was then 22 years old and studying in college. They saluted the master and sat down. The master requested Narendra to sing. The tanpura hung on the west wall of the room. The devotees fixed their eyes on Narendra as he began to tune the drums. Sri Ramakrishna said to Narendra, "The drums don't sound as well as before." Captain said, "They are now full, therefore they are quiet, like a vessel filled with water. Or they are like a holy man who remains silent when his heart is full of God consciousness." Sri Ramakrishna said, "But what about sages like Narad?" Captain said, "They talked because they were moved by the sufferings of others." Sri Ramakrishna said, "You are right." After attaining Samadhi, Narad, Shukadev and others came down a few steps, as it were, to the plane of normal consciousness and broke their silence out of compassion for the sufferings of others and to help. Then Sri Ramakrishna said, "A man had 2 sons. The father sent them to a preceptor to learn the knowledge of Brahman. After a few years, they returned from their preceptor's house and bowed low before their father. Wanting to measure the depth of their knowledge of Brahman, he first questioned the older of the two boys. My child, you have studied all the scriptures, now tell me, what is the nature of Brahman? The boy began to explain Brahman by reciting various texts from the Vedas. The father did not say anything. Then he asked the younger son the same question. But the boy remained silent and stood with eyes cast down. No word escaped his lips. The father was pleased and said, My child, you have understood a little of Brahman. What it is cannot be expressed in words. Men often think they have understood Brahman fully. Once an ant went to a hill of sugar. One grain filled its stomach. Taking another grain in its mouth, it started homeward. On its way, it thought, next time I shall carry home the whole hill. That's the way shallow minds think. They don't know that Brahman is beyond one's words and thought. However great a man may be, how much can he know of Brahman? Shukadeva and sages like him may have been big ants, but even they could carry at the utmost 8 or 10 grains of sugar. As for what has been said in the Vedas and the Puranas, do you know what it is like? Suppose a man has seen the ocean and somebody asks him, well, what's the ocean like? The first man opens his mouth as wide as he can and says, what a sight! What tremendous waves and sounds! The description of Brahman in the sacred books is like that. It is said in the Vedas that Brahman is of the nature of bliss. It is Satchidananda. Shuka and other sages stood on the shore of this ocean of Brahman and saw and touched the water. According to one school of thought, they never plunged into it. Those who do cannot come back to the world again. In Samadhi, one attains the knowledge of Brahman. One realizes Brahman. In that state, reasoning stops altogether and man becomes mute. He has no power to describe the nature of Brahman. Once a salt dole went to measure the depth of the ocean. It wanted to tell others how deep the water was. But this it could never do, for no sooner did it get into the water than it melted. Now, who was there to report the ocean's depth? A devotee asked a question. Suppose a man has obtained the knowledge of Brahman in Samadhi, doesn't he speak anymore? Master said, Shankaracharya retained the ego of knowledge in order to teach others. After the vision of Brahman, a man becomes silent. He reasons about it as long as he has not realized it. If you heat butter in a pan on the stove, it makes a sizzling sound as long as the water it contains has not dried up. But when no trace of water is left, the clarified butter makes no sound. If you put an uncooked cake of flour in that butter, it sizzles again. But after the cake is cooked, all sound stops. Just so, a man established in Samadhi comes down to the relative plane of consciousness in order to teach others, and then he talks about God. The bee buzzes as long as it is not sitting on a flower. It becomes silent when it begins to sip the honey, but sometimes intoxicated with the honey, it buzzes again. An empty pitcher makes a gurgling sound when it is dipped in water. When it fills up, it becomes silent. But if the water is poured from it into another pitcher, then you will hear the sound again. So, importance of silence. We have to watch ourselves. How are we practicing this value of silence? It conserves lot of energy. a lot of your energy is dissipating in a useless talks and arguments. One who is serious in spiritual practice should pay utmost attention to preserving whatever energy he has got to do sadhana. Because while we talk, it is not that we talk always carefully. We talk inadvertently. We talk in a very careless way. We hurt the people knowingly or unknowingly. We make fun of the people. We taunt the people. We do all sorts of mischief in talking. And you can't escape the bad effect of our noise. So, one has to be really careful in not making noise of any kind. In silence only, mind becomes tranquil. So, in order to acquire the tranquil state of mind, one has to hold on to the repetition of the divine name, and that protects us from all dangers. So let us try to realize the importance of silence and follow it up in our daily practice. We are reading the last chapter of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Narendra was sitting with the devotees in the room of the Danas. The conversation turned to religious preaching. Page 992 Gospel. Yam said to Narendra, Vidyasagar says that he does not speak about God to anyone for fear of being caned. Narendra said, for fear of being caned? What does he mean? Yam said, that's what Vidyasagar says. Suppose that after death we all go to God. The emissaries of death will have sent Keshav Sen there too. Keshav Sen no doubt committed sins while he lived on earth. When that is proved, perhaps God will say, give him 25 stripes. Then suppose I am taken to God. I used to go to Keshav Sen's Brahma Samaj in my earthly life. I too have committed many sins. So I too am ordered to be caned. Then suppose I say to God that I acted in that sinful way because I listened to Keshav's preaching. Thereupon God will ask his emissaries. Thereupon God will ask his emissaries to bring Keshav back. When he is brought, the Almighty Lord will say to him, did you really preach that way? You yourself knew nothing about spiritual matters, and yet you had the hardihood to teach others about God? Emissaries, give him 25 strips more. Everybody laughed. Yam said, therefore Vidyasagar says, I cannot take care of my own self. Should I be foolish enough to get an additional caning for misleading others? I myself do not understand God. How shall I lecture to others about him? Narendra said, how has he, who could not understand God, understood other things? M asked, what other things? Narendra said, he says that he has not understood God. But how then can he understand charity and doing good to others? How can he understand about the school? How can he understand about educating boys by establishing schools? How can he understand that it is right to enter the world, marry, and beget children? He who rightly understands one thing understands everything else. M said to himself, yes. Sri Ramakrishna too said that he who knows God knows everything else. Further, he said to Vidyasagar that leading a worldly life, establishing schools and so on, are the outcome of Rajas. The Master also said that Vidyasagar's philanthropy was due to the influence of Sattva on Rajas. Such Rajas is not harmful. After their meal, the brothers of the monastery rested. M and Chunilal were conversing. Chunilal told M of his first visit to Sri Ramakrishna at Dakshineshwar. He also told him how at one time he had felt disgusted with the world, had renounced it, and had wandered about in holy places. A few minutes later, Narendra came and sat by them. He asked the younger Gopal to prepare smoke for him. The latter had been meditating. Narendra said to him, I say, prepare a smoke. What do you mean by this meditation? First of all, prepare yourself for spiritual life by serving God and holy men. Then you will be able to meditate. First of all, karma, and then meditation. Everybody laughed. We shall stop here. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quench that mighty forest fire, worldly lust raging furiously within. Own name streamed down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself. O self, drowned deep in the waves of His bliss, tasting His nectar at every step, bathing in His name, that bath for various house. Various are thy names, O Lord, in each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy, how huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass, be patient and forbearing like a tree, take no honor to thyself, give honor to all, chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue, the playthings of lust or the toys of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy, consider him as dust beneath thy feet. Ah, how I long for the day when an instant's separation from thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years. When my heart burns away with its desire, and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet let me be, in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O thou who stillest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, for thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers, may all realize what is good, may all be actuated by noble thoughts, may all rejoice everywhere, may all be happy, may all be free from disease, may all realize what is good, may none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous, may the virtuous reign tranquility, may the tranquil be free from bonds, may the freed make others free. May good benefit all people, may the sovereign righteously rule the earth, May all beings ever attain what is good. May the worlds be prosperous and happy. May the clouds pour rain in time. May the earth be blessed with crops. May all countries be freed from calamity. May holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied. For he being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.